Hello, this is the reflection for Ash Wednesday, February the 18th, 2026, and the text is Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 to 6 and 16 to 21. It is perhaps ironic that on Ash Wednesday we mark our foreheads in ash with the sign of the cross as a sign of our Lenten devotion, when Jesus warns against disfiguring one's face in order to appear to be fasting. And I leave it to you to decide whether or not it looks dismal to mark yourself with ash. This section of teaching by Jesus comes from the Sermon on the Mount, which in Matthew's Gospel are Jesus' authoritative teachings as to how to live according to the values of the kingdom of heaven. The three practices that Jesus talks about in the passage we hear today, almsgiving, prayer, and fasting, were common ways of expressing piety in Jesus' culture. Jesus assumes that his hearers will indeed practice these forms of piety. Whenever you give alms, he says, and he says the same about praying and fasting. And in each case, Jesus tells his hearers to practice these forms of piety in secret. Jesus commends secrecy not so much for its own sake, but in order to stress purity of motive. It is the hypocrites who give alms or pray or fast, so that they may be seen by others. Their reward consists in whatever acclaim they win from those who witness them practicing their piety. And there is even a suggestion that their practice might not be genuine. Jesus intends to convey that the reward of public acclaim is part of what makes up treasures on earth. Earthly treasures are fleeting and transitory. They are easily lost, and you can't take them with you. To practice piety in secret, that is, to do righteous deeds with pure motives, is to store up treasures in heaven. Heavenly treasures are the reward earned for practicing piety with a pure heart. Now, if Jesus were to talk about practicing piety today, he might actually recommend public practice. Not, of course, in order to win acclaim, but in order to bear witness to the kingdom of heaven. He would still be concerned with purity of motive. After the sermon, we will be invited to observe a holy Lent by self-examination, penitence, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, and by reading and meditating on the Word of God. As you can see, we are invited to practice precisely the forms of piety Jesus teaches about. We are also invited to self-examination. We are encouraged to consider whether our motives align with the values of the kingdom of heaven. Speaking for myself, I know that I sometimes do things in order to please other people, instead of in order to please God. I suppose it is possible to practice piety in a way that is pleasing to both God and other people, but when I do things in order to please other people, I don't always do the right thing. Like everyone else, my motives for practicing piety are mixed. We all fall short from time to time. But if we practice penitence when we fall short, and self-examination in order to ensure that we are doing the right thing for the right reason, we will be making a start at storing up treasures in heaven. We will be seeking to please God. So, as we begin Lent this year, I encourage you to practice self examination in particular, to seek to align your motives with the values of the kingdom of heaven. A good place to start would be to read the Sermon on the Mount, which consists of the 5th through 7th chapters of Matthew's Gospel. It is a good way to learn how to love God and neighbor as God intends us to do. For the more we learn to practice our piety in order to please God, the more we will be storing up treasures in heaven, and the more our hearts will be with God.